Hello, welcome back. Today I made a little video about the racetrack and how it's been coming along. This is how it looks tonight. It's pretty much finished. It's ready to go. And I just want to show I made a couple of videos past about how the table and everything was built. So I I needed to make my own borders, and I wanted to make them a little bit bumpy so that if you slid out you could hit some bumps. So here's the way it looked. I toted it up and I used a little indoor Bondo. It was supposed to be odor free. I didn't particularly think it smelled any different than regular Bondo, but they charged extra for it. But so anyhow, I put that in there and smoothed it out, and this is that was kind of a major thing. Then this is porch paint that was at the local hardware store. Someone had miscolored it. It's bark brown. And I thought that would be a really good base coat to put down because it's primer and it's designed to be walked on for porches. So I put that down, painted the entire track with it, and ran a few laps. Then I put some gray on top of it. This is just eggshell wall paint that we had laying around from painting the room. And over top of the other paint, I actually thought that the porch paint was a little too grippy. It was just almost too much. So this is, painted now with the gray, and I was able to run a bunch of laps. I've been having a good time with it. So the next step is I took some of this tan and I just stippled it, where you just take your paintbrush and just kind of stab it in, and it makes like a splatter effect. I just wanted a little bit of tan to sort of outline the track. Then I went back with some green and did the grassy areas in the middle. So yeah, that's how it looks. I'm kind of pleased with it. It's not perfect. It's not super high end like slot mods or anything like that. But this is my speaker that plays the crash alarm sound, and I bought a paper craft 711, printed it out and glued it to the sides of it to sort of disguise it. And then I wanted to have an indicator of where the lane changers were. So I put these arrows on, and then the other yellow marks are dead spots, because it's happens so frequently that we go to restart a race and one of the guys is sitting on a dead spot. Well, now you can just glance down and see if your car is parked at a yellow mark. These are some old monogram figures that I painted up to sort of decorate the pit stop. Totally unnecessary, but they're just kind of there. And then I have a small crowd at the start-finish line. I thought about getting some bleachers and stuff like that, but I had these guys laying around. These are from the biker set from Homies. So I wanted to test. These are the plastic track times before I painted. And it's the exact same layout. So I thought, let me take a couple of these cars and run a little test, see how they do. Now, the red Cyclone is the record holder, but that's not an accurate time because it slapped off the wall, bounced back over, and cut half a lap off. So we're going to test the top 3 cars that were on the unpainted track. This car has one magnet, and it's running the standard tires that came with it in the box. I'm actually quite pleased with the level of performance. Originally, I thought nothing would be able to really, compete with the Carrera cars, but as time has gone on, I've kind of changed my tune about brands and different things like that. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And it still has some spin outs. It has a little bit of it takes a little bit to control it. So it was nice. So you can see we're not off to a great start with this Scalextrics charger. And in its defense, it has a really noticeably shorter guide flag, and it only has one magnet. So it was a real challenge. The hills were really messing it up because it got light. It just wanted to jump. You can jump with this car. So I had some problems with it. The previous time had been done by my friend Sam, and he's generally can get a better time with the same car than I can. But I stuck with it a little bit, and I got some decent times. And yeah, I forgot to film the street rod. So these are the times now with the paint on the track as opposed to the unpainted. So remember, the The Scaley was at a 10.436, and it is now a 9.1. The Pioneer was at a 10.466, and it's at an 8.6. And then the Roadster from Carrera was at a 10.934, and it went down to an 8.7, over a 2-second improvement. So the next test, I have a Mercury that has a Pioneer Charger chassis underneath it with a Carson digital chip. So I'm trying to move into this realm where I'm using the Carson chips with other chassis. So I want to test it against that Carrera car. So here's the little Mercury. It's doing okay. It has the same chassis as the Duke Boys, but I think my tires were dirty because it was a little wobbly in the tail. It wanted to spin out some, but it did pretty well, and it's just fun for me to run a car like this that takes a little bit of engagement. I've been advocating for one magnet with my racing group for some time, but I get outvoted. They definitely prefer the 2-magnet type of racing, but it did okay. It did okay. I'll show you the times here after we run the Monster here from Carrera. And this is that Dodge. It is insanely stuck down. It runs. But I want you to listen to this. The car is so down, you can see that it's wearing the plastic off. It's hitting the rails there, especially on the hill, wherever there's the slightest little... Yeah, you can hear it. It's just beating against that stuff. So I ran both of them. This is an insanely stuck down Carrera car. So here's where we were at, and the little Mercury couldn't keep up. That's, I think, that 8009 is ridiculous for this track. Yeah, I was happy with the Mercury, but it's not going to keep up. So I thought I had gotten some Paul Gauge tires because I wanted to try them out on the Scalextric and the Pioneer. So these tires are set for each of the Chargers. So I'm going to try the little Mercury with the Paul Gauge tires on it. It was different. It was, it was still a little bit challenging, but instead of spinning out, what would happen is in the corners, it would roll. It would sort of, tip up a little bit. There it sort of hopped. It got light and lost touch with the ground and just kind of hopped out. But it did okay. I'm not going to say it was remarkably different, and I think that's another factor that I need to take into account of things. So here is the time with the Paul Gauge tires, and it was 1/10 of a second faster. So I don't think 1/10 of a second is worth the price to buy tires for everything. These are just a small collection of the Carrera tires that I've been throwing away. They, every one of their cars gets bad tires, and what happens is the tires slowly degrade over time. So your car will get worse the longer it sits on the shelf or the longer you own it until you replace the tires, which is interesting. So, yeah, I like the cars that you don't need to necessarily buy tires. But I want to go back to how I got started into the hobby. And the reason, this was the first set that I got. It had a Chevelle and a Trans Am in it. And my friend wanted to do Scalextric. He was into Scalextric heavily. But the reason that I chose Carrera was because of the availability of the street cars that they had. They had street rods. They had, Cudas and Camaros and all these other really neat street cars. And I assumed that they would continue to make that type of car. So I invested in Carrera and ignored Scalextric. So this was the Trans Am that came in that set. And noticing that this car could beat that Chevelle. They came in the set together, and it was massively faster, just much better design. So these are just a few of the pictures of some of the street cars from Carrera that I got when I first got into the hobby about 10 years ago. And what happened, and I've heard this from the Carrera dealer rep in person, I met him at a show, and his YouTube channel, he brings this up frequently. He said, these street cars do not sell. I don't know, I tried to talk to him, but I guess my particular tastes are just so out of the norm that there's no point in any, company even chasing customers such as myself. So I feel that I kind of got a bait and switch. I got into it thinking, wow, I got like a lifetime of these really cool cars coming out. I was like, no, you don't. You have another Ferrari. Oh, do you want another Ferrari? How about another Ferrari? Hey, here's another Ferrari. You've never seen one in real life. You'll never own one. You'll never touch one. But here, buy 87 different cars with different numbers on. No. So I much prefer these. I'm a little bit frustrated by it. But I've had to make some adaptations. Now, one of the things that's interesting about the Carrera cars, every chassis is unique. And some of these will run rings around the other ones, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's good and it's bad, because it's neat that each car handles differently. You're like, wow, this is really neat. Every car handles differently. But what can happen, in particular, this happens with our group because of, whatever, you wind up not running a lot of the cars because they're just not very good. So these are all the cars you can't get anymore from Carrera because they don't, whatever. You can get this. This is, I think, the only street car that they have available. I have one. But yeah, that's about it. So I started poking around and looking into some other places to get cars to sort of suit. Because what happened is for a while I was just buying stuff I didn't want it at that much. So Scalextric has a couple of cars out there. I have some issues with Scalextric. Like this is Scalextric. I put a Carrera chassis underneath it. Now this car here, I'm going to try to buy a guide flag and try to keep it going. This was a Revell car, and I just made it into a street car with a 390. This was just some $5 radio controlled car that was for sale. The body was, $5. And then this is a Pioneer car that I took the numbers off of with the little alcohol. Another Pioneer car. So, I'm going to have to adapt if I want to, stay in the hobby with the 1/32 scale stuff. And I do want to get more into 1/32. And kind of stay away from the 124. The group that I race with loves 124, and I'll, obviously I'm still going to get them and race with them. But I like the little 132s, and when I made the track a little bit more close, it's more suited for 132. So this is the chassis that I have purchased quite a few of. There are actually some of these for sale in my store, but I'm going to use these for my own custom builds. They suit me. I mean, they're not like super high end, whatever, but I quite like them. But the advantage of this is now all the cars that I scratch build will be compatible with each other because they're all going to be running the same driveline. So the guys that I race with like 124 cars, and I love building model kits. These are some of the model kits that I built in the 124 digital cars, but the performance is all over the place. And what has kind of happened is a lot of our races turn into a 917 race because that particular car seems to be really, really good compared to some of the other ones. A few of the other ones are close, but it seems like the 917 is sort of like the class act. But yeah, so there's where I've evolved. To sum up, I got a painted track now. I'm morphing into Pioneer and Scalextric 132 using Carson digital chips, and Carrera pretty much doesn't want my business. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.